Hey, it's Anne. Once a month, we pick an episode to make free for everyone. So even if you're not a paid subscriber, you'll get the bonus Ask Anne Anything segment at the end of today's show. And if you like what you hear and you want to support the show, paid subscribers get other perks like discussion threads for each episode and an ad-free experience. You can join us for just $5 a month at culturestudypod.substack.com. And if you're already a paid subscriber to the newsletter, you get a huge deal. I think it's like 35% off. If you can't figure that out, it's in the show notes or send me an email and I'll show you how. Okay, thanks everyone. Enjoy the show. This is the Culture Study Podcast, and I'm Anne Helen Peterson.
Hi, I'm Ash Brandon. I use they, them pronouns, and I am known online as the Gamer Educator. By day, I am a middle school librarian, and I have an upcoming book, Power On, Managing Screen Time to Benefit the Whole Family.
Ash, I was telling you before we started recording that we got so many good questions from listeners, but one thing that Melody pointed out as we were sorting through them is that they all are coming to these questions around screen time and family and togetherness from this position of screen time as de facto bad, right? Like all of them are about how do we think about managing other people in our family's screen time? And I wonder if we could just start with that positionality. Like, what does that make you think?
Yeah, I love nonfiction books. I've read a lot of nonfiction books. And I find that every time I start a nonfiction book, I am like a little frustrated when the author is like, before we get to the thing that you bought this book for, let's first spend like 100 pages doing some like foundational history or learning. And I'm always like, no, get to the good part, right? And then I went to write a book and I was like, okay, we've got to do a whole foundational thing. I was like, oh no, I've become the thing I hated. But you know what? From the other side, I completely get it, because this is exactly what you're talking about. Like, we can't really talk about how to manage things like technology and screen time if we are always at this core belief underneath that they're bad. And that doesn't mean that I'm saying like, actually, you should think that they're great. Like, no, that's not what I'm saying. But there are many things in our lives or other people's lives that we manage, and we think of them as what I think of as like morally inert, right? That they don't have a sense of morality in and of themselves. Like, maybe I have hang-ups around the morality of certain foods. I make a lot of comparison with foods and technology, but I don't necessarily view like the act of eating, right, as necessarily morally good or bad. I recognize it has to happen. Same thing with like sleep. These are activities or things in the day that don't have a lot of moral value. And the way we spend our time is also that. And I think we can't really get to a place of being able to manage these things effectively and not from a reactionary place if we don't first confront this idea. So, I mean, where does that idea come from? Like, we probably don't have enough time for that. And it's
like so many places. I was thinking about, there's like a meme that I've seen circling around that's like, I need to turn off bad screen so I can look at good screen, right? Like this feeling sometimes that like that different screens in our lives have different moral balances. So like going to the movies now is generally thought of as like good screen, good family time, right? Which even, if we were in the 1920s, like bad, like moral disrepute, like all sorts of ways that it was corrupting people's minds and bad screen time. So it just shifts. It's unstable.
And media. I love that you brought up the 1920s. I have this editorial like saved somewhere in my phone that was from 1921 about the radio. And there was a particular quote that I've like committed to memory, and it said, "Man will never again suffer from the vice of thinking," right? And like this, this whole implication that like, the media is going to take over, do all the thinking for us. We'll never like this aspect of leisure is inherently bad, and we keep updating this argument, but we don't really escape it, right? We don't escape it. Yeah, and it permeates so much of what we do and the way that we think about, our own leisure time, because that's essentially what a lot of screen time ends up being. Not always, but a lot of the time. And also for other people or for our kids. And then we have this sort of condemnation of it a lot of the time.
So you referenced your new book. Let's talk about it.
So power on, managing screen time to benefit the whole family. And that's really what it's all about, is instead of this feeling of fear, right? We've got a lot of messages around fear. I think we're good on fear, frankly, when it comes to many parts of raising kids. But I think especially technology, we're good on fear. We have a sense of what to fear. And you know what? If fear was enough, we'd be done, right? Like, and I think the fact that we're not shows that, you know, there's more going on here.
Yeah.
And we can't just say, hey, this is bad, because then that puts caregivers in a place of going, oh, okay, but like, what alternative do I have? I'm overworked. I'm a single parent. I live in an apartment. I don't have a backyard. It's too hot or cold. My kid is disabled. Like, I don't have these other supports. What am I supposed to do? I guess I can like martyr myself further, and then I can become an enraged, like, you know, parent who's not doing the parenting I want to do. What alternative do I have? So people are going to still turn to screens. They're still going to use technology. All it's going to do is make them feel terrible.
And I know that this doesn't get lost for you because you are a person who loves games and loves screens. Like, sometimes I just think in these conversations we lose sight of how much fun screens can be.
Yes, and that's not bad,
Yes.
right? Like, or we recognize it, but the immediate response is like, and that's the reason we should limit it.
Right.
We often hear that around like the word dopamine, which has become a 4-letter word in relationship to technology a lot of the time. Right. And it's like, well, yeah, it's because it's fun that we should not let them do it. It's like, okay, we have a big body of evidence. Like, we have a huge body of evidence around other potential vices, right? We have a big body of evidence that shows us that abstinence-only education isn't effective.
Right. Or restriction with food, right? And I know you've talked to Virginia Smith about this, right? That like restriction doesn't work, and not in the way we think it does.
Right. Yeah. It does the opposite. Right. It so often does the opposite. And I think many of us recognize, like, we know that we are in a technologically driven world. We don't necessarily like it. I don't like it. I really have a kind of disdain for the sort of technological ubiquity that's happened in the last few years. I wish we could unring the bell, and we can't. So like, if we recognize that that's probably not going to change, and it's probably just going to get more technologically driven, okay, then what's our goal? And a lot of the time I feel like my goal is to prepare my child or children for the world in which they're going to live. And preparation is about, you know, empowerment and skills. And fear and restriction and abstinence, those things are not empowering. Those things are not going to equip kids with skills to navigate those things. And just as I can educate my kid about the dangers of drinking and driving without letting them drink and drive, right? I can also educate them about technology without just being like, yeah, I don't know, go figure it out, play as much as you want, right? There is a middle ground. And I think that middle ground is where a lot of us have to navigate as adults. So putting our kids in a position where we're just like, oh, we'll just like not let you have this until a random age. That's not going to give them the skill. It's going to make it harder because we're putting that responsibility on them.
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, this is actually a great question, especially as you're doing all of this book promotion. And I think at times when we're really busy, oftentimes our relationship to our screens get complicated. So how are you feeling about your own screen time right now?
You know, I mean, a work in progress always.
Yeah, totally.
So I think it's almost exactly 2 years ago, I started doing this thing where I sometimes I say that I am trying to use technology against itself. Like I try to do sort of like malicious compliance with technology. Like, how do I make it work for me? And then sometimes that means, how do I make it less effective? So like 2 years ago, for example, I started a thing where I have an iPhone. So I made a customized personal setting. Like, you know, you can have the driving setting or the do not disturb setting, etc., or the sleep setting. Well, I started making one that happens on the weekend from like Friday evening to Sunday evening. And it basically just hides a lot of my apps. And like, obviously I know they're still there, but it hides them. It gives me a different lock screen photo. It has a bunch of like the most commonly used things I need like on the lock screen. So there's like a little icon of maps and a little icon of the weather or like my Duolingo account or something. So I can click that and go straight to it and like not see the rest of my phone.
Yep.
And just that is really helpful because it's like, I think I get very wound up in how productivity and sort of capitalism often overlap in this really tricky way of like, there's always a sense of what else should I be doing? What else should I be doing? Right. And I should do this now so that later I don't have to. And technology is really good at taking advantage of that. And it's a sense of giving myself permission. Like, no, you have permission to like not do that right now. And it's fine. And it'll be there when you get back. And that's been very helpful for me. Also, the simple act of modeling, like scripting out loud. We do that as parents when kids are like born and babies, and we know that we need to do that for language development. And then I think we just never have to do it again because they've learned to talk. And the thing with that is that it makes a lot of the invisible executive functioning skill completely, I mean, truly invisible to them. So all they see is an adult like looking at a phone and looking at a computer and then like robotically putting them away. Right? As if we've been like commanded to do so. Right? Right? And it's that sense of like, I think we say to kids a lot like, well, nobody has to tell me to do this. It's like, right, because we have executive functioning, right? Mm-hmm. Or sometimes we do. And if we want that to happen for kids, it's like, okay, model that. So my kid the other day said something about not wanting to see me on my phone at certain times. And I was like, okay, I've tried to make a habit of saying exactly what I'm doing and how long it will take and why. Because there's so much labor that happens on phones too, that now I've tried to make a point of being like, hey, you just mentioned that we're out of granola bars. If I don't do this right now, I'm never going to remember. I am putting granola bars in our pickup order. Then I am putting my phone away. Or like, I just got an email. It's really urgent. I need to write it. It'll take me 3 minutes. And then I am going to continue listening to whatever we were doing before.
Yeah, no, I sometimes do that too. I find myself doing that when I'm around the kids in my life of like narrating why I'm picking up my phone, because I do try to be present with them whenever I'm with them. I'm like, I'm going to look this up right now for you. Or like, let's look at a picture of this. Or I need to text your mom. The other thing that this made me think of is like how much time when we were kids we spent with like our moms on the phone.
Oh my God.
Like
we had a next door neighbor across the street who read, I mean, this is extremely insane. He read the newspaper as he drove to work. Like put it over his steering wheel. And it was sort of like, oh, there goes Kevin. And it's like, oh my God. Like I can't even imagine. Like now we're like, wow, that's a horrible idea. Even if the newspaper's just in your phone. But yes. And like if we saw moms at the park, the playground, soccer, swim lessons, what have you, right? Pickup line, whatever. If we saw them in the 90s reading a book or, writing down a grocery list or what have you, we would not have condemned them for how dare you not be watching everything your child's doing.
But I also think about like when I was a kid, how annoyed I would be that my mom was on the phone. Right?
Oh.
Like, because sometimes she was chatting. And I'd be like, my mom's chatting. And, or sometimes she was like doing, I don't know, like making an appointment, like coordinating something. And I was just like, Mom, get off the phone. Right? Like there were, and those things now are mostly done non-verbally, all on this one device.
Yes.
And we're going to get to these, we have questions that are about like, the black box function of these devices and how people don't know. So I want to save some of that. This is actually, we need to tee up our first question because this is going to be a fantastic discussion. Okay. So we're going to talk about screen time, not just for kids, but for ourselves, grandparents, friends, et cetera, et cetera. And then we're going to keep the conversation going in our special segment at the end with 2 questions about how to talk to someone you love whose phone usage is bothering you. So first up, let's hear from Willie.
Is part of the problem with screens that they are so opaque? If my husband is sitting there reading a book, I don't have a problem. It's obvious what he's doing and what he's reading. But if he's immersed in his phone, I don't know. Is he playing a game? Answering email? Watching Ice Road Truckers? Why do I care if he's engaged with his phone, but I don't if he's into a book? And why does it feel so different?
I feel like this gets to the heart of some of our discomfort with screen time. Where does it take you?
I think it really does. And honestly, where it takes me is in this particular case, because this is more about like a relationship between adults, right? Which is definitely different than the dynamics of kids. But I think the similarity is that because I think a parent could have written in and said almost the exact same thing, right?
Yes.
If
Yes.
they're sitting there reading a book, it's fine. If they were using an e-reader with e-ink, it's fine. If they're looking at the tablet, then all of a sudden I'm like, no, stop, right? So very similar thing, and I think in both cases, I wonder if we are feeling about how this reflects on us, or like how this reflects on our perceived value depending on what that person is doing. So if we're a parent to that person and they're reading a book, then it's like, oh, well, books are good, check. And therefore, because my child is reading a book, I, the parent, am good, check, right? And I'm obviously vastly oversimplifying, but I do think that's something we do because we'll hear when people are like, oh, screens are a tool, just ask what they're replacing. Again, if you think screens are bad, you're going to fill every single thing you can think of into what they're replacing, right? Well, they're replacing reading and sitting and staring into space and reorganizing the shoe closet and like everything, right? So I think there's...
But also being with me. That's the other thing, I think, with couples in particular. And,
Yes.
and I think this is also at the heart of parenting, too, is like whatever they're doing, it's not being present with me.
But they're not present with you when they read a book.
Right, but it's somehow different, right? Like it's like if you're reading a book or if you're doing, I think like what sometimes people call like parallel play as adults.
Yes,
where,
yes, yes.
Two people are tinkering on something at the same time doing their hobbies. It still feels more present. Book not as much, right? Or like we're listening to music together. We're having the same experience of this music.
Sure.
We're watching the same TV show, and maybe one person likes it more than the other person. But we are together in doing this, and we compromise to figure out what we're going to do. And there's something about screens to me that makes it into this like hyper individualization nightmare. And you don't even know, because like at least with a book, you know what the cover is, right? You're like, or if it's an e-reader, you're like, you're reading. I know what task you're doing. And with the black box, it's just unknowable. Like,
that's why I wonder about the reflection on us, because let's say it's my partner, right?
Yeah.
Then what I start wondering is, do I have less value to you than whatever's on your phone?
yes, exactly.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
totally.
Right. And I mean, sometimes I probably would feel that way about a book, right? Like it depends. But I think you're right. Like, I think it's the mystery. I think it sometimes might be a feeling of maybe hypocrisy of like, if this were reversed, would you be okay with me being on my phone? Or like I try not to do this and now you're doing this. And so it feels sort of unfair. But I definitely, I mean, at least for me personally, I can imagine feeling like, well, like, do you even know I'm here kind of feeling? Like, am I being sort of ignored, or is it like I'm not as valuable? Like, my presence isn't being maybe valued.
And I think that this also is like people's frustration with others using phones, like when you're out to eat. I'm like, we made time together to spend together. Like we are spending more money to be eating in a place that is not our home. Like, talk to me, right? And part of that, I think, is the worst part of like the ease of a phone specifically, is that it's always there to pick up that blank space in your mind.
Yeah. And going back to the idea of talking about modeling, that's something I tried to do also with around my kid that I found really helpful and effective, is that I would try to actually name, like, not the utility of why I'm doing a thing on a technological device, but like what need, like internal need, am I trying to meet with it? like an
Yeah.
emotional need, for example.
Mm.
So like there was a day where I was sad, I think. And I just named like, I'm sad. Like this thing happened, I'm sad. And I'm going to be sad, right? And I kind of don't want to feel sad right now, but I know I can't just flip a switch and not be sad. So I was playing a lot of Zelda. So I'm going to play some Zelda because I think it's going to distract me from being sad, and like try to actually name, like, it's not going to make me happy, right? It's not going to fix my problem. It's not going to make me happy. It's going to distract me. But you know what? Sometimes that's okay. I don't want to do it all the time, right? Like I don't want to only distract from my emotions. But if the option is like, I can't be functional, or I get a temporary reprieve because I'm in a really difficult place, then okay, yeah, I'm going to distract. So I did that. And then after like 20 or 25 minutes, I even said like, I feel a little better. And I also know that as soon as I stop, I'm going to feel that way again. And that makes it hard to stop. And I think I would actually feel better if I got up and took a walk. So I'm going to try that now. I'm going to get up and take a walk. Will you go with me? And just the labeling of, again, there's not good or bad. Like, could I have done other things then? Yes. Sometimes those things are more effective. And sometimes I'll talk about that. And we'll talk about, hey, we were angry and we did this, or we were bored and we did that. And like, which felt better, which had more of a lasting impact. Similar again to food. There's no morality to food. There's no good or bad food. And there still is different nutrient density, right? So I might say like, okay, yes, Cheetos are morally neutral to broccoli, and they also are going to give me different things. And what do I notice about those things? And I think that noticing is really, really important, especially for kids when we're talking about sort of digital literacy and the things we want them to notice. But I think for ourselves too, so that we might be able to identify, I don't know, some of these patterns that can kind of come up.
Yeah. I think back on some conversations I've had with my partner about like times when we've become miffed with one another for being on phones instead of with one another. And they have led to like good conversations about like, why are you reacting this way? Like, why do you feel the need to do this? Like, or like sometimes, or if you're like, why are you picking up your phone while we're driving? And it's like, okay, but why are you surveilling me picking up my phone while we're driving? And what's going on with that surveillance of it? It's just like the noticing leads you to more interesting places if you're willing to go down those routes.
Right. And even naming, like my spouse and I will sometimes in the evening, we will like absolutely name to each other. Like, I feel like half watching something. Like that's the mood I'm in. I want to half watch something.
Yeah.
Or if I have something I've left to the evening and I'm like, I need to stare at a screen because I have to finish whatever I was not doing earlier, then at least it's out there and we know. Or maybe it's, hey, I need 15, 20 minutes of this, because sometimes I'm finally not being talked to, etc., for the first time all day long. Maybe this is decompression because it's sort of the fastest, easiest way to get it. It's like, okay, cool. And can we decompress for 20 minutes? Right? Yeah. Like, and instead of like punitive, can feel more like an invitation of like, hey, I'd still really like to watch this show with you. Do you still want to do that tonight? Can we do that when you're, done, etc.?
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes Charlie says, I need to watch like 72 talks and then fall asleep. like TikToks. I'm like, yeah, I get it. Like, it's like after a really long day. He's like, I just need 72 mindless TikToks. Today's episode is brought to you by ZBiotics Sugar to Fiber. Okay, so you've heard us rave about ZBiotics pre-alcohol probiotic. I love it. But their team has another product, and it helps you get more fiber into your diet without changing what you eat. Personally, I need this right now because I'm just coming back from vacation, and everyone knows when you come back from vacation, you need more fiber in your diet. Fiber diversity supports a balanced gut microbiome, yet only 5% of Americans get enough fiber in their diet. And if you're like me and you just came back from vacation, it's probably because it's so hard to do. Even though the first thing that Charlie and I made was like a giant, we call it like mash of vegetables and quinoa, because when you are on vacation, you are not getting, especially when you're in Spain where everything is just meat and more cured meat and cheese. You come home and you're like, just give me a giant pile of broccoli and Brussels sprouts. But here's the thing. I also craved Starburst jelly beans, which I always crave. And the really wonderful thing about sugar to fiber is it takes all the sugar that you're eating, like Starburst jelly beans, and it turns it into a prebiotic fiber called leaven fiber. It's really hard to get leaven from a typical diet, even with a lot of broccoli, and it helps to improve the amount and diversity of fiber my body receives. So I'm drinking sugar to fiber every day because I like having a way to get closer to my daily recommended dose of fiber without having to drastically change my diet. And I really like knowing that this fiber was coming from the sugar in the Starburst jelly beans I was already eating. So you can go to zbiotics.com/culture study and use culture study at checkout for 15% off any first-time orders of ZBiotics probiotics. ZBiotics has a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they will refund your money, no questions asked. Thank you, ZBiotics, for sponsoring this episode. Today's episode is brought to you by Blissy. Melody, do you have any problems with hair breakage?
Yes, I have one little bald spot on my hairline because I wear a CPAP mask and I sleep on my right side, and it's just constant breakage in this one little spot.
I have some right now because I was on a cycling vacation and wearing the cycling helmet, obviously. Like, just, I don't know. I feel like I have all of this frizz. I don't want to make it worse. You know what makes it worse?
Let me guess. Your cotton pillowcase.
My crappy cotton pillowcase. This is why I came home and I was like, oh, I'm so excited to sleep on my Blissy pillowcase again. Blissy is silk. It's cold to the touch. It's like incredible for sleep. And it makes it so that you don't get even more hair breakage than people get for all sorts of different reasons. You can also see healthier skin. It doesn't hold dirt and bacteria the same way that my filthy cotton pillowcase does. And it's dermatologist tested and recommended. It's antibacterial, it's hypoallergenic, and it's easy to care for. You can just put it in the washing machine.
I was folding laundry the other day and pulled out the Blissy pillowcase. And at first I was really confused because I thought it was like a slip. Like a silk slip. And I was like, what is this? Like,
who wants a slip?
What is this beautiful piece of fabric I'm pulling out of my laundry? And then I was like, oh, it's my Blissy. Like, I forgot I owned something so nice.
Like, am I going to church in 1989? Oh, no,
Yeah.
it's my Blissy pillowcase.
But like, that's the quality.
It's amazing.
It's confusing. It's so nice.
There are over 99 colors available, so you can make it go with any sort of bedroom configuration. And because you're a listener, Blissy is offering 60 nights risk-free plus an additional 30% off when you shop at blissy.com/culturepod. That's BLISSY.com/culturepod and use code culturepod to get an additional 30% off. Your skin and your hair will thank you. Our next question is kind of adjacent to this, so I think it'll be a good segue. It's about the constant intake of information. It comes from Natalie, and Melody's going to read it.
I listen to several podcasts a day on my phone to help me get through mundane tasks like laundry, dishes, etc., to have some background noise while I'm working at home alone, to keep me company on walks, and sometimes even to help me sleep. Does this daily stream of info/content have a similar effect as phone scrolling? Like, does it have the potential to affect my attention span, focus, recall, social relationships, etc., the way chronic scrolling can? Should I cut back, or am I overthinking this?
First of all, I feel bad that Natalie is just like pathologizing something that like makes them feel really, I don't know, like it seems to keep them company, right?
Right.
And it also reminds me like the soap opera, like the narrative structure of the soap opera in radio and in television was meant to be there as like a very easy to follow along structure that could keep you company while you're doing endless amounts of housework, right? Like this is
the
not
talk
new.
show, all of it, right? Yes,
Yeah.
all of it. Yes, and I think about even like to a degree books or like audiobooks where I'll be like, oh, okay, now we're at the point where like they're vaguely recapping everything that's happened in case you like have been paying no attention. Right?
Yeah, totally.
And now we're back in
Totally.
it. Yeah, I mean, I am not in medicine or psychology, so like I can't really speak to if it's doing the same thing right to our brains in terms of like the neurology of it. And I think you bring up a good point. There's a fitness influencer I follow, and he talks about he tries to get like a certain amount of protein in his diet because he's trying to build muscle mass. And he is not someone who is like, oh my gosh, only eat chicken and Greek yogurt, right? He's trying to have the things he enjoys in his life. So he has this framing where he says, pair what you want with what you need. So in his case, he like takes Greek yogurt and then he like crumbles double stuffed Oreos into it. So I'm like, okay, I get that. And it's like, okay, if my need is I have to clean the house, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, what's the other option? That we're just like silently, stoically cleaning the house, right?
Like, would the person be asking the same question if it was music?
Yes, seriously.
No,
And
no
probably
one's
they
like,
would
oh,
not. Yeah.
yeah. Like, oh, can you believe you listen to music to fall asleep? But, we read our kids to sleep. Bedtime stories are fantastic. Podcast,
Yeah.
not different.
Right.
And sometimes, like, that nothingness is useful. I think I would be more worried about the content. Like, if you were listening to, like, Manosphere podcasts all day.
Yes. Well, yeah, I think the content I think it's more about the content. Like there's certain podcasts or whatever where I sometimes will notice I'm about to put it on and it will be one of these things where it's kind of filling in the space. And then I'll stop myself and go like, wait, no, I like this one. Like I want to actually listen to this in a time where I'm going to really pay attention and not be kind of half doing something. So maybe I put on something I am okay with, missing half of, or I can come in and or out of it. So like for me, the TV show Call the Midwife, that's the show I put on whenever I'm like, I'm cleaning the house. It's maybe on, maybe I'll watch it, maybe not. So yeah, I think if it's making the activity more enjoyable, I mean, unless I can't imagine a scenario which it's like taking you out of, we're not talking about family dinner, we're talking about this kind of mundane parts of our lives that still have to get done. And I think about if it were our kids, I think about like with my kid, I'd be saying like, yeah, you want to put music on while we clean? Of course. Right. I'd be encouraging that as finding a way to figure out what works for them. So yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I have to tell myself we're not going to listen to anything because it'll like slow me down. If I'm like, oh, I have 10 minutes, we have to power clean, then maybe not. But
yeah, I think the one place where this is difficult is like if you only listen to it on headphones, right? Like I've noticed this and others have noticed this in public spaces in cities or on the subway, just walking your dog. Like if you're always listening to something, you really aren't open. You aren't receptive to the things that the world is throwing at you. And in some cases, I understand that actually makes life a lot better because it's sensory overload and like it's really hard to deal with that. But in some cases, it's just like I don't want to have to deal with someone talking to me while I'm walking my dog, right? Or like so, it's always like that. And I think like that's difficult, right? If we're always inward, if we're always focused inward on like the stuff that we have chosen specifically to listen to. When do we have those moments for like outward exposure?
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't live in a city. So for me, more often, if I'm like leaving or going on a walk, often it's like, well, I listen to something or nothing. And there's just sort of like silence. And I think, I wonder if this is true for this person who wrote in, but one of the difficulties for me with that is that sometimes I'm like tired of thinking.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I would like someone else to tell me what to think about and just like listen to them so I can stop thinking. Thank you very much. And sometimes I have to force myself not to do that because I will actually have a better, like more impactful, like for my own like emotional health experience if I am not flooding my senses with constant input. But sometimes I'll tell myself like, how about we do it for 5 minutes? We don't have to commit fully. Like, okay, we're walking the dog. I'm worried someone's going to talk to me. Okay, how about we like, can we make it to the end of the block? right?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
maybe it's like, oh my God, but it's always that one neighbor. Okay, wear your headphones till the end of the block and then take them out, right? And
well, but that's the thing is that that one neighbor is still going to talk to you. They're just going to make you pause so that you can still talk to them. That's the realist. Like people in my life who have anxiety sometimes tell me that like I don't want to be in my anxiety brain. Like when I go on a run, I have to have something to take me out of anxiety brain, and I don't have anxiety, so that's not something that I like empathize with. But I do understand that feeling of like wanting to be outside your own head. For me, like for my creative work, I need times when I have no inputs.
yeah.
Where like I call it hanging out with my own head or my own thoughts, right? Like letting like thoughts just like ricochet around, but not in like I'm going to go on a run and come up with 6 newsletter ideas. Like stuff just kind of comes and flows, but it only happens if I make like a lot of space for it. And sometimes I think that comes across as like morally superior. And I'm like, no, it's just, I mean, part of it is that like stuff doesn't fit in my ears very well. But part of it too is like, I don't want to over-determine which podcast I'm going to listen to or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
It's a mix of things.
Absolutely. Well, and there's just also so much curiosity there of just figuring out what works for you. And I think, again, that's like, again, why I'm always coming back to the neutrality piece is that like, well, if we're seeing them as morally neutral, then we're allowed to figure out what works. Right. And that's why going away from like, oh, well, if it's this, it's good. And if it's this, it's bad. And this is the right number of minutes. And this is too many. Right. Because then we're trying to make it simpler. I understand the urge to make it simpler. But then we're taking out the piece of like every human is different. We all have our different needs. And it's okay to prioritize and figure out what works for you. And especially with like kids and raising kids, it's like, no, I don't want my kid thinking like, oh, okay, well, so long as I'm using a screen for under an hour, then it's fine. Doesn't matter what I'm watching or what I'm doing or who I'm ignoring or what, right? Because minutes are what's important, right? Because that's what we hear a lot of the time. Or how fast paced it is or whatever. Instead of like, what purpose is it serving? What need is it meeting? What is it allowing? And how do I feel? How is it impacting me? And those are much harder things, right? That's nuanced and complicated, and it's not a soundbite. And it's probably a lot more sustainable long term.
Yeah, I think I would tell Natalie, you're asking questions about it. Like, be interested in the answers, your own answers to these questions.
Yes. Right. Try it. Like, experiment. Try one day not listening while you do something. Notice what's different. Maybe it was better in some ways and not in others. And then use that information. Try it again. Yeah. But you don't have to pathologize either way.
No, totally. So this next question gets back to your primary wheelhouse of kids and screens. This is from Ashley, and Melody's going to read it.
I have 2 children who are now 14, a girl, and 12, a boy. We have always had limitations on their screen time with the exception of summer. Our daughter is very good at regulating herself. She will be on her iPad and then go do art after a while. However, with our son, he has always been much harder to self-regulate his screen time. I especially noticed this when we let him play video games. I swear he would play all day if we weren't there to redirect him. During school, we even limit video games to only on the weekend, or I feel like as a family, we would barely have time to interact. He also plays a lot of sports. Anyway, my question is twofold. Are video games, quote unquote, worse screen time than, say, scrolling Pinterest? Are there any studies on the differences between how boys and girls regulate screen time? And is there anything you could do to help your kids who don't learn to better regulate? I don't think my son is any better than he was when he was 4.
Oh, there's so much going on in this
like
question.
5 questions.
So the few things that pop into my head right away reminds me of a couple other conversations we've had about parenting, contemporary parenting, intensive parenting, which is like this desire to know studies.
Yeah, tell me all the info. Right. Yeah, exactly.
Like give me all of the info. This also like is one kind of screen time better or worse? Because then I can feel better if it's that screen time instead of this screen time, right? Like trying to get to that. And then something I see a ton when I talk to friends too is like, well, one of my kids is totally self-regulated. They've got it figured out, right? And then another one would play video games all day. Melody put a little note and was like, She's like,
Wouldn't
I've
we
been known to play
all?
a video
Right.
game all day.
Right.
I have, and I will continue to do so.
Or whatever, right? Or whatever. Or
whatever.
you would hike, you
Whatever.
would crochet, you would
Totally.
go rock climb, you would watch Netflix all day, right? Yeah. I was, my kid and I were on a road trip for like most of the month of June, and it was mostly just the two of us. My spouse was not there. It was wonderful. It was incredible. And there were also, like, I was also on all, like, continually. And there were a lot of moments where I found myself kind of looking around because I'd been asked like yet another question, right? Like the 1,000th question of the day. And I found myself looking around being like, where's the adult? Right? Like, oh my God, who is making this decision? And then with horror, realizing that it is still in fact me, right? And there's that aspect which stinks. Like, this is not fun, right? And I say this with my full chest, it's not fun for me either. If we are giving someone the option to do a thing and then they choose to do the thing, the only other choice we have is to not let them do the thing, right? If we're implicitly or explicitly saying, hey, right now you can do whatever you want, and they choose to go to the thing that is sort of the lowest hanging fruit, then like, well, we gave them that choice. And the alternative is that we don't give them that choice. And I think that goes into the other part of what they were talking about with like the regulation piece. So I think it's so interesting. And I'm so glad this person mentioned that they don't think that I think they're 12. They don't think their 12-year-old is any better at regulating than when they were 4. So something I say a lot is, if you are struggling with something with relation to screens, take the screens out of it, and it will illuminate the skill that needs addressing, because it isn't about technology almost any of the time. Sometimes it's playing in, but in this case, I mean, they said it. It was like, he's not able to regulate now any better than he was at 4. So is the issue the screen, or is the issue regulation? And I don't know this family, but like, look at other areas of this person's life. Can they regulate in those other areas? If they can't, okay, then it really is a regulation issue. And that's really helpful, because if we're treating screens neutrally, again, it's all interconnected. If we're treating them neutrally, then it's like, okay, we have to work on regulation. What does regulation look like when you're playing baseball? What does it look like when you're reading a book? When you are trying to figure out if you're hungry? When you're frustrated with a math problem? What does it look like when you're playing video games, right? How do we decide to step away from something? And we can make it clear to them that those are skills that apply across these activities. And if we notice that it is something that's more unique to the screen, I have a section of my book that I call the Screen Time ABCs.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that. Yeah,
because most of the time, we think the issue is like the technology or their behavior, but a lot of the time it's actually the access to the screen, like how they get it or how long, the behavior in relationship to it, or the content. And when we're trying to isolate and figure out like, okay, well, what's the pain point? What is the issue? If it's regulation, that could be turning it off. If it's turning it off, then, okay, that could be access. So how do we make it easier to turn it off? And I give examples, but that could be like reminders. It could be parental controls. It could be a whole host of things. And maybe it's the content, because the structure of the game is hard to stop. Right? Like if I'm playing Mario Kart and the level ends, it's like, okay, I'm done. And if I'm playing something that's like a giant open sandbox, it's very hard to step away from that, but that's not unique to screens. It's hard if I'm in the middle of a project. It's hard if I'm in the middle of playing on the playground. Then we're getting to the skill of, how do I stop in the middle of something? So that curiosity of looking at, okay, is this actually unique to the technology, or is there an underlying skill here that we can try to address? And then we're making it clear to our kids that, hey, the stuff you do on devices is still relevant in the rest of your life, right? Like, these things cross over. They can help support each other.
So one thing, I was just looking at this question written on the page, and I was like, you could put me in that scenario at age 12, but replace Lucky Charms with screens. right? Like I only got them on the weekend. Like
Yeah.
I was so much worse at regulating myself than my brother.
Uh-huh.
I would eat them all day if I could. Like those things were all true of my access to Lucky Charms. Like,
1000%.
and it was because of how, and I actually couldn't get them out. I got them at like birthday parties, and I was like, I will eat the entire box of Lucky Charms. So that's just as a note on restriction and how we approach these things. The other thing, and like, again, Ashley, we don't know all of your family dynamics, but the one thing I see coming through in this question is that he seems to be doing a lot.
Yeah.
And depending on his personality, when I got home from school and I was working hard to be perfect all day at school, and I would come home and the first thing I needed were some bagel bites and to watch Star Trek The Next Generation
Oh my God.
by myself.
Yes.
By myself.
Yes. Yes. The other thing is mentioning that this kid is doing a lot, is especially during the school year. And I say this as an educator, kids have very little autonomy in their day-to-day life, almost none. And we think they do because it feels like students are like often running the show, but they have no autonomy. They're being told where to go, what to do, what to put your name on, like how to get this sort of grade. Their lives are very out of their hands. And even in things like sports, which, yes, they're often getting to connect, but they're getting constant correction, constant feedback of like, do this differently next time. They're being expected to kind of take all that in and synthesize it and immediately do something different. That is extremely demanding.
Yes.
And if it were me in that situation, I would be craving a sense of autonomy, meaning that like, I just want to be in control and not be being told that what I'm doing is not right or needs to be different. And video games are a very dense and immediate way of feeling that autonomy, because a game might enforce a rule. Like it might be like, no, you can't go over there. No, you can't do that. But it's not going to yell at you, and it's not going to admonish you, and it's not going to be like, how many times did I tell you to stop trying to do that? Right? If you want to, it'll let you. If you want to just go, mine ore for an hour, it'll let you. And that lets kids really feel in control without punishment, without that sense of correction. And so if that is something that maybe this kid is seeking, then we don't want video games to be the only way that they're getting that. We don't want that, right? So if that seems to be what they're craving, how can we give that to them in other ways? And that might be other activities, but if you're like full and you're like, no, we have no time. Okay, how can I make parts of our life maybe less managed by me, maybe more from them? What can I back off of to give them that sense of you can have control here? That way he doesn't think, if I want to feel in control, I should play video games, right? Then he has more ways of feeling that way.
Yeah, that's such a great answer. Gosh. And I think like it's only going to ramp up from here for the boy and the girl, right? For any kid, like from age 12 and 14, like that sort of control over your time with the professionalization of sports, but like kids sports, and also just like how
being
school
a student.
works now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We have to figure out ways that you can like find those places of liberation, for lack of a better word, right?
Yeah.
Like, and video games can be part of it, but then other things too. I love the suggestion to like, okay, what can we do as a family that is actually not led by us as adults?
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. And you know what? I know some adults are gonna be like, oh my God, don't suggest that. But it could actually be video games.
I know.
I hate to tell you this, but like it could be. And you don't have to like it, but it will at least show your kid like, my adult values this because they value me, right? And I think that goes a long way if we're also trying to, especially with kids this age, because we're getting into the area of digital safety a lot more than just like balance, right? If we want kids to come to us when something is unsafe online, they first have to be able to come to us when something is safe and exciting and celebratory. And again, with the neutrality, if we're coming at it from like, oh, Minecraft again, oh my God, but you could have been drawing, right? Then we're not going to see and celebrate the thing. And then they're going to go, oh, right, I shouldn't mention this.
But you know what's interesting? All the kids in my life who like Minecraft, who love Minecraft and love to show me their creations on Minecraft, also love to draw and show me their drawings. And like,
yes, because it's a giant open-ended thing, right? Yeah. So like I am not a Minecraft person. Hey, really, really do not care for it, and it's because I don't like an open-ended thing. I find it overwhelming. Yeah, but I love kind of a rigidly like objective-driven thing. Like I like baking. Very similar. It's like, here's your recipe, do these things, be very exact, follow this to the T, you'll get cake, right? I like hiking, but I don't like backcountry exploration, right? Yeah. And to me, I feel very in control because it's like, oh, okay, like a lot of that labor's been done for me. I just follow this. So it doesn't surprise me at all that a kid who likes Minecraft is going to like, dumping all the Lego on the floor and figuring out what to create. Yep. But being able to tap into that and go, why do they like this? Even ask your kid, what is it you enjoy about this?
So when I first started my newsletter, so almost 5 years ago, one of the features that I did was I had readers interview a kid in their lives about why they love video games. Oh. And we had responses from kids who were 5 to kids who were 18. And it was them, like, they answered questions and then we put it together into these answers. And like, sometimes it's so frustrating to me that like when kids like something and we panic about it, we never think like to ask them why they like it. Mm-hmm. If you can get past that initial like, I don't know, I just do, which you can oftentimes if you just keep asking questions and showing that you are interested in them and what they have to say. Okay, we've got one last question before the AAA, and it's going to add even more nuance to the conversation. And I know that it's something that you've thought about a lot. Let's hear from Caitlin.
How can I reconcile screen time for family members with disabilities who teeter between using their screens as a coping mechanism, but also are moving through the looking glass into misinformation? For context, this is an older family member who doesn't wish to acknowledge the impact hearing loss is having with how they engage in the world.
So I was speaking more about like how people with disabilities use screens differently, and that's part of why we can't apply this like blanket moral lens
1,000%
to all screen use in any capacity.
Absolutely.
But so maybe we could talk about that a little bit first, and then maybe we could talk a little bit about the misinformation part.
Yeah, I think especially with kids, I think that's a huge reason why, again, I think it's so important to not focus on these random objective metrics that we've decided are extremely important, like the number of minutes that someone's on a device or what age they are. Like I get a ton of questions of like, my kid is 6. What should they be playing or watching? And I'm like,
right, like it ratchets up like a amusement park ride.
Right, like it's height. Right, it's not height on a roller coaster, right? Yeah. But I think also we see this too with going a little older kids like with smartphones, where there's this whole campaign of like wait until 8th, and it's like, okay, when they're 14, they aren't magically they don't have readiness. Like what we're actually talking about is readiness. And that's a whole different thing, because readiness is about skills, right? It's like asking what age should my kid ride a bike? It's like, no, when are they ready to ride a bike?
Right.
And I really like going back to the readiness, because then it's talking about what are the skills? What are the skills you have? What are the skills you need? And while you're building those skills, what do I need to protect you from? So like when my kid is not a very great biker yet, they might, have training wheels. They might stay on flat ground. They might wear knee pads. When my kid is building up the ability to manage their own screen time, they might have a timer. They might have me, right, available to them. But then we're still protecting them from the danger they can't protect themselves from, and they're building the skill. And when it comes to aspects of disability, then that some of those things might not ever be things that we can fully hand over the responsibility of to our child or a family member, because it's not within their capabilities, or it would be inappropriate, right? Like if someone is using a screen as an assistive device, the goal is not necessarily to not need it anymore, right? We are accommodating. And if that's an accommodation, then they're going to need it all the time. And I think, again, when we are able to recognize the neutrality there, it makes us better at confronting some of the ableism that can so frequently come up in these conversations of like, why is somebody on a device? Because you know what? It's meeting the need for that family right now is often what is true. And that might be true because of a disability, and it might be true because a parent is disabled and cannot do certain things for their kids that someone else can, or they have no capacity, or they are dealing with chronic illness or what have you. So yeah, it's just all this interconnected stuff. And I just don't think that focusing on those metrics, like who feels empowered by that? You know, who is like, oh, okay, 30 minutes. Well, if I need 32 minutes, then what does that mean? Right. And if it's under 30 minutes, then does it not matter what they're doing on a screen? Of course it does. Right. So getting away from the seemingly important, like kind of binary, clear cut metrics, and instead looking at what is the purpose this is serving, right? Is it filling a need? What need is it filling? And do I want that to change, or could it change? Sometimes it can, right? Sometimes my kid is 8.5. So it used to be like, no, I need screen time so I can make dinner so that my kid is safe. I'm safe. I'm making a meal. It's different now. We can be more flexible now because our needs have changed. Who we are has changed. And if my kid is using a device to communicate, that's not ever going to change. And recognizing that need is also really important.
Yeah. I see in this question from Caitlin, and again, we don't know the full of the story, but like just extrapolating for other situations, this person and her family like is, I think, probably feeling lonely in some capacity, right? Because they're not able to engage in the world with the world in the same way that they were able to before. And there are so many things that can make that happen. Yeah. And in their case, probably the phone is the thing that is making them feel, or is distracting them from that feeling, is replacing that connection, whatever it is. But like the conversation isn't, you're on your screen too much.
Yes.
The conversation is, I've noticed that you felt really, that you like, have you been feeling lonely? Mm-hmm. Right?
Right. Or if this
it's not about the screen.
Exactly. It's not about the screen a lot of the time. Or if it's like, if it were, I imagine, like an older relative who's maybe losing their hearing, right? Like something's changing over time. This isn't something that's always been the case. Then it might be, just recognizing, like you said, exactly that, and speaking to the, like, hey, this must be hard. Like, is this hard? How is this going? Maybe suggesting or offering the support of, you know, what you have in mind, or at least letting them maybe say what supports might be needed. And I think also, I think especially for older people and families, I think also just naming like, hey, this is different and we still want to be with you.
Yeah.
Right? Because like I can get very in my head and very convince myself. Like when I am like in a bad place, my brain is like, you should just not tell anyone and go like be by yourself. And I'm like, I know that's not right, but like you're really convincing, brain, you know? Yeah. And I think with older family, I think that really happens with this feeling of like, I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to be in the way. So just making it clear that like we want you in our lives. We want to make sure that this is accessible to you. We want to include you, right? How can we include you, as opposed to kind of saying nothing and then they might confirm for themselves, like, oh yeah, it's just best that I'm in my screen.
Yeah, and I think it also brings us back to like the very beginning of our conversation about like, if we take our moral feelings about the disinformation that this person might be getting from Facebook away, and the fact that they're on their screens all the time, like if you love this person, like how do you communicate that to them? And that you want to, like, that part, not the you're on your screen too much and I think you're believing bad memes, you know? Like,
Right.
that's the
Right.
harder part.
I mean, believe me, I could like I have my whole like soapbox I could drag out about, you know, the kind of elder, you know, population and boomer and like digital literacy, because they often didn't get it when they were younger because they were already kind of too old for it. And I get that that is like a major risk and a major consideration. And exactly as you're saying, exactly like with kids, right? Like if we're condemning the medium, right, that's not going to increase connection. It's not going to tell them that they can come to us about this thing. And like, believe me, I do not want to hear about some AI generated Facebook posts that everyone's interacting with. That's the last thing that I want to hear about. And if this is somebody that I care about, I'm probably still going to suck it up and be like, let's talk about that thing. Tell me about that thing, right? As opposed to just like, please stop sharing this. It's...
Today's episode is brought to you by Article. So I was just talking to a friend of mine about how she had to find a sofa for her apartment in New York, and she wanted something that was like chic, but also affordable and also would stand up to wear. And we were going back and forth about like how she, like what she was looking for. And then she said, and I'm not even making this up, I was like, where'd you get it? Article. Duh. Article makes it effortless to create a stylish, long-lasting home or apartment at an unbeatable price. They have every style. If your vibe is more mid-century modern or coastal or Scandi-inspired, you can find that there. And they pair seamlessly with nearly any other Article product. This is really true. I have like lots of different Article stuff that really works together in my home, and they're not all from like the same line. So it doesn't feel like I got like matching stuff, like I'm buying furniture in 1955. Article focuses solely on high-quality, meaningful pieces that will stand the test of time. There's no filler, and every item is chosen for its craftsmanship, design, and lasting value. All of the stuff in my home right now, we've had for going on 6 years, and it looks amazing still. Article also has fast, affordable shipping and assembly across the United States and Canada, with options for professional assembly if you prefer a hands-off experience. Like they came and assembled my bar cart, which didn't require that much assembly, but they still assembled it for me, which was fantastic. They also have support when you need it. So if you have a question or need help with your design choices, their customer care team is available 7 days a week, offering knowledgeable support and even free interior design services. I know someone who did this and they loved it, to help you get your home just right. With Article's 30-day satisfaction guarantee, you can shop with confidence, knowing that if you're not completely in love with your new furniture, you can easily return it. The peace of mind ensures you can invest in your home without hesitation. So if you're in the market for a beautiful new sofa, a dining table or a bed, or Melody's favorite lamp, what?
No, I'm just going on 5 lamps from Article now.
Or one of the 5 lamps that Melody owns from Article. I think I own like 4. Head over to article.com/culture. You can get $50 off your first order of $100 or more. You'll see the discount automatically applied at checkout. That's article.com/culture. Today's episode is brought to you by Remy. Melody, you know what I say a lot?
What?
That teeth are luxury bones.
That's so gross. But you're right.
Because they're bones, they're part of our bodies, but they're like luxury. And in that, you have to have like a lot of privilege to take care of them well in most scenarios. Mm-hmm. I just got a letter in the mail that my dentist is no longer accepting my insurance. This is like the 10th time this has happened to me. Like the whole system is broken. And I think a lot of people are really frustrated with trying to find care from dentists in the office with insurance. This is where Remy comes in. A lot of people I know have a lot of problems with involuntary teeth clenching and grinding. It gives them headaches. It makes their lives miserable. 30% of Americans grind their teeth and are looking for ways to help protect them at night. And there's no better solution than Remy's custom fit night guard. Both dentists and teeth grinders recommend Remy because a custom fit night guard is the best way to protect your teeth. And Remy is 80% less than the dentist and way easier. So if you're in a position like me, where you no longer have dental coverage through your dentist, this is an option to consider. You receive your impression kit straight to your door. Remy gives you step-by-step instructions to get your perfect impression, and then they ship you your custom fit night guard. The best part is Remy is so confident that you'll get a perfect fit that they offer a 45-night perfect fit guarantee or your money back. So no waiting rooms, no overpriced bills, no dealing with your dentist no longer accepting your insurance. Just a better way to protect your teeth while you sleep. Try Remy risk-free at shopremy.com/culture and use code CULTURE to get up to 50% off your night guard at checkout. That's 50% off shopremi.com/culture with code CULTURE. Thank you, Remy, for sponsoring this episode. So I love that you teed up like the larger conversation about media literacy, because we're gonna, in the Ask Ann Anything segment, we're gonna get to two special questions that are about talking to people about their screen time usage and how it can potentially hurt the relationship. So this includes boomer parents. Let's play these questions back to back and we will answer them together as best as we can. First up is from B.
My best friend and former roommate is an inveterate second screener. He will often be playing a simple game like Block Blast while we talk, both when we live together and now when we talk on the phone. He has ADHD and is often doing two things at once in other contexts, like doing a crossword puzzle in class or a craft while he watches TV, and he says that these games are like fidget toys to help him focus. I love him and have broadly accepted that this behavior is not a problem for our relationship, but generally, I do find it rude when other people go on their phones during a conversation. Is it hypocritical of me to both abhor the proliferation of single-user screens in moments of connection and completely accept my friend's habits? Is the only way to actually change the way we use screens in social life to take a stand with those closest to us? Or should the fact that I've accepted this behavior already suggest that maybe it is, in fact, acceptable?
Next question along these lines comes from Hannah.
How are we talking about screen time usage with our boomer parents? When my parents come to visit me and my children, they are on their iPad way more than my kids are. And of course, these are the same parents who told me that TV would rot my brain when I was a kid.
There's so much going on in both of these questions. We got a ton about dealing with our own boomer parents. So I think that this is something that has come up a ton and we don't know how to address it. And many of these other questions also mentioned the notification sounds, which...
Oh. Like...
Do you know about this?
I don't know.
Well, just
maybe
like
the
general,
boomers in your
just
life.
The general noisiness of
yes. Oh my God!
Yeah.
What is it? It's
all
a
of
play.
them on all the time.
Okay, my mother does listen to things I do, but she's not a subscriber to your podcast. So, Mom, I love you, but oh my God, oh my God!
And it's like on the phone, on the computer, on the iPad, because they have all three oftentimes.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And it's like chirp, boop, boop, like.
Yes, it really is fascinating because
it's really interesting.
It is interesting because I also, like, in my own personal life with my own parents, I am like, you don't seem to be responding to it. So, like, is it serving a purpose?
And also just like notifications on for like sports scores, you know what I mean? And like,
yeah, I mean, this gets to a whole thing of like, again, the digital literacy. I think a huge amount of it is like people just do not know, like don't know that they have control over that, don't know how, don't know that a lot of that like gets turned on by default, which don't get me started. I have so many of my feelings, but
and just like difficulty. And I think one thing that is always important for us, like millennials, Gen X, like younger people to acknowledge is that we have spent a lot of time thinking about our own digital hygiene. We have thought about like the way that our devices and the way that we email, the way that we text, like how that would work, like how to be professional in it, right? Like how to create space away from it. Like those are things that a lot of boomers did not have a ton of integration of these devices into their professional lives.
They are far closer to our kids or below, frankly, in some ways.
And that's not meant to be infantilizing.
No.
It's just a reality of the amount of education and experience that they have had with them.
And I feel like people kind of, I assume, kind of our age, sort of elder millennial, maybe cusper to Gen X. I feel like we are in some ways the hardest position because we are kind of the most technologically literate of anybody in our lives, right? Of the people younger than us and older than us. And a lot of us
like our kids, you mean?
Oh yeah, yes, yes.
Not 22-year-olds. They're more technological.
Oh no, absolutely more than 22-year-olds. No. Definitely we're more.
You think so?
Oh my God. Have you ever asked somebody born like since 2000, like, what is a save icon?
Oh, okay.
Right? Like,
yeah, we have all of that. Like we have the palimpsest of like all of our technological
but not just
experience.
not just like the semiotics, right? But like the like
yes.
But like not knowing like that the difference between like something
how to use emails,
right? Like cloud-based versus like it's saved locally on a device. Oh, a lot of that literacy is gone.
Okay, I just look at the ability to make a reel, which you know how to do very well, and I'm like, that person knows how to internet.
But I think that like people of our age really had it tough because we got to a certain age, maybe around when we had kids, and we turned around and reflected back on our own lives and went, holy crap.
Yeah.
Oh my God. My parents never should have been letting me do that. I was in the wild west of the internet in chat rooms asking randos ASL and like talking to all these strangers, and holy crap.
Totally.
It is a miracle that I like made it through that, and thank God the internet was not forever, and thank God I didn't have a computer in my pocket, right? And we look at that and go, oh my God, I had to protect my kid from that. And we also look at that and go, oh my gosh, my parents had no idea, which isn't like, they really couldn't because it was like being built while we were flying the plane, right? But then our parents never really had to because they were kind of just unaware of that. And then they got thrust into that internet, much like our kids, without any of that kind of knowledge. And so we saw the danger, or we see it in our rearview mirror, and we're very aware of it. And so we feel this like, I think, increased standard on ourselves because it's like, well, we do know better. So therefore, I really can't get it wrong.
Yeah. But then we come across as condescending to everyone in our lives when we talk about it.
Right.
Like, condescending to our parents, condescending to the kids in our lives.
Yes.
Condescending to Gen Z. They're like, shut up about how you didn't have Facebook in college. And you're like, but it was better.
Right.
I mean.
Well, and so like for the parents, you know, the boomers on devices. So much of it too is like, again, take the screen out of it. They're sitting there reading a book. They're sitting there being in a conversation. They're doing something you don't like. Okay.
Yes.
And I can't tell someone else at what point you decide that that's worthy of saying to somebody. Like whether that is your friends, in the case of B and their friend who's like doing these things because he's probably unmedicated is what I'm hearing with his ADHD. Or it's your parents or what have you. You know, like certain things, like my parents basically functioned as childcare for us on certain days of the week when my kid got out of school early. And I know the TV was on there in ways that it wouldn't be at home. I know that they were watching things that I probably wouldn't have allowed in the total amount. And I was okay with it because I knew certain things were absolutely okay. Like I knew they were in the room. I had told them, generally speaking, like these are the things we're okay with. We're not okay with content like this or with this language or this kind of depiction. Like I put the guardrails on enough, and I then recognized like, okay, and this is kind of the cost of the free childcare. Like, and is this something I'm okay with being a habit? And sometimes that's yes, and sometimes it's no. And if it's no, well, again, it's not really about the screen. It's, I don't like this behavior that this person's doing. And I think it goes back to what we were talking about with the person losing their hearing, where it's like, okay, how do we make it clear that we want you in our lives? Like, you're here, I'm visiting you, I'm talking to you, I'm visiting you in your apartment, you're at our house. I want to talk to you. I want to connect with you. And I think there's varying ways to do that. I think even something as simple as like, what can we all do together that we'll all enjoy, right? especially with kids and grandparents, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, and I think, this reminds me of a lot of questions that like Virginia Soul Smith gets about how do I talk to my mom about, or my dad or elders in my life about the comments that they make about food and bodies around my kids.
Yes.
Right? Some of it is modeling, and you're like, well, I'm doing all of this work to try to parent, to navigate a really tricky thing. And I just need a little bit of your help on this one. Right? So like, you're as a parent doing all this work to model a certain way to engage with and be present with screens. And then grandma comes in and has like 17 notifications. Or MSNBC is on the television
constantly.
All day, constantly.
All the time.
Right? Never off. I think just having like a larger, like we're saying, like an awareness, like, hey, mom, sometimes it's difficult for me to feel like we are like engaging with one another when the television's on all the time, or like I have to deal with the news a lot in my job. So it'd be kind of nice to not have it on in the background. Do you think we could talk about that? Not shaming it, because I think sometimes the impulse is to be like, cool notification, Dad. Like, do you want me to, you know what I mean? Like just kind of like tease them.
Right. Well, I think there's a couple approaches. One could be like genuine curiosity mixed with like genuine sort of ignorance of like, oh, what does that notification mean? Like, I don't have that one. Like, truly, I could say that. Like, I don't hear that sound. What does that one mean?
Or like, Mom, have you ever, like, do you know how to turn that off?
Exactly. Do you like it? Do you like it?
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
Oh, wow, I had to turn my notifications off because I find them so annoying. Do you like them? Do you know how to change that? Is that something you want help with? And if they're like, no, it's fine. Like, okay, fine, back off. Right. But it could be that they have no idea, which is like, I think often the case. I learned this trick that I think about all the time from the Gottmans, John and Julie Gottman, that talk about like relationships and like, fighting and conflict. And I remember them talking once about if you're getting a sense, or if what you want to say to someone is like, you're being defensive, that obviously that's not going to generally go very well in the middle of a conflict. But they said to instead turn it around and say, you know what? I feel like I'm going to get really defensive in this conversation right now. And I think about something like that, where it's like, if I were in my parents' house and there's like things buzzing and MSNBC is on, and I would be able to say like, I am going to have a really hard time focusing in this conversation. Or like, you know what? If there's a TV on, I'm just going to end up watching the TV, and I really want to be here with you. Do you mind if I turn that off? Like, don't make it about them. Make it about you. Like, make yourself the bad guy. You can be the bad guy. You can be the bad guy, and not in like we have a no screens rule, right? Not in this like I'm micromanaging you and putting you under my thumb, but more of like letting them be generous with the kindness. Does that make sense? Yeah. Of like, oh, this is just what I need. Would it be okay if we just turn this off? Right. And then it's like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. And move on with our lives.
And then the other thing I would say is that there are some things that I think we just have to understand that not everyone is going to engage with technology exactly the way that you are. So like one thing my mom does is she keeps her phone ringer on her phone because she doesn't keep her phone on her person at all times. Right. You know what I mean? Like, that's just not something that she ever learned to do. And I this is true for a lot of people who are around her age. Like, that's not their practice.
Well, and they're used to a house phone that is loud
and they're used
ringing.
to a house phone. Yes. And so I'm like, you know what? That's okay. And like, she has like doctor's appointments. So like, they're calling to check in on something. Like, she can't ignore the phone the way that I can ignore the phone.
Right.
So I just have to be like, sometimes my mom's phone is going to ring and it's going to be annoying to me. Yeah. That's okay.
Yes. And I think that's also a good thing too, to show to kids, like if it's grandparents or what have you, of like, there is no one right way to do things. And there are things that grandma does differently because they work for her. And like all my doctor's appointments are through an app. Grandma doesn't want to deal with the app. Her phone rings. I can't pick up my phone any time of day. I do everything this way. We're both getting those things done, right? And sometimes it might be differences of like, it feels different around people that are using their devices in this way. And it's okay to notice that, and it's okay not to like it. That's also good to know. It's good to figure out what's important to you.
Totally. And I think to wrap us back to B's question briefly before we wrap up the whole episode, I think, part of what they asked was, is it hypocritical of me to both abhor the proliferation of single user screens and moments of connection and completely accept my friends' habits? No, that's like, you're meeting your friend where they are. I think, to me, it seems like B wants and needs to have more conversation with this person about how they're connecting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's still prickly to them.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't seem like it's working for them. So I think that's another thing too, is if you're essentially they're in a relationship with this person. It's not a romantic relationship, but like it is an important relationship in their life. And if that is true, I think that to really go full circle, to talk about like the person getting ignored by their partner on the phone earlier versus a book, it's the feeling of, I want to value our time together, and I don't feel the same value when you're looking at a screen. I know you might still be present, and I have this hang up, right? Again, it's sort of like the same thing with like the boomer parent of like, this is hard for me. How can we accommodate this? Like, you're accommodating yourself in this way.
Yeah.
This isn't quite working for me. It works for you. And now we're in a relationship, right? Now we're in a partnership. I talk about this with kids and students all the time. Like things like fidgets. It's like, okay, some fidgets are loud. Some are annoying. Some are wet. Some are sticky. Some are whatever. It's like, okay, what is the best tool for the job right now that is going to not impede on anyone else's enjoyment of this experience, right? And so if this is detracting from their experience, then that's worth naming, right? And surely this person in their life has found other ways. Like, they can't play phone games in the movie theater, I hope, right? Like, they're going to find other ways of accommodating this in other parts of their life, hopefully. And if not, that would be a good thing for them to do. I think it's okay to find a way of valuing, not feeling like you're valuing yourself over your friend, but valuing the relationship.
Yeah. That's a great place for us to end. Ash, if people want to find you on the internet, where can they find you?
Thank you so much. What a wonderful conversation. You can find me.
I know, right?
You can find me mostly on Instagram at The Gamer Educator. I cross-post all my Instagram posts to Substack. So if you're trying to avoid social media in your life, or you just want to be able to like search your email inbox to always find a post, because it's hard to find things on social media. My Substack is also at The Gamer Educator. And my book, Power On, Managing Screen Time to Benefit the Whole Family, came out on August 26th and is available wherever you get books. And if you feel particularly about the tone of my voice, I read my audiobooks, so maybe that will sway you one way or the other if you're choosing to get it. And if you're still not entirely sure, I always encourage people, get it from your library. Request your library to get it. Then everybody wins in that situation.
And your Instagram is very aesthetically pleasing to me, so people should follow, if only for that reason.
Well, I appreciate that.
Thanks for listening to the Culture Study Podcast. If you want to support the show, become a paid subscriber at culturestudypod.substack.com. It's just $5 a month or $50 a year, and you'll get ad-free episodes, the Ask Ann Anything segment, and weekly discussion threads for each episode. And be sure to subscribe to the Culture Study Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We have so many great episodes in the works, and I promise you don't want to miss any of them. tinyurl.com/culturestudypod, or check the show notes for a link. And if you're a paid subscriber, head over to the discussion thread and keep the conversation going. For discussion today, how did this make you think about your current relationship with screens as pertains to your relationships with others? Like, did it make you reconsider some of the behaviors that you practice or that others practice? What's one thing that you kind of want to change or that you want to start thinking about differently? I think we're going to have a really great discussion. The Culture Study Podcast is produced by me, Anne Helen Peterson, and Melody Rowell. Our music is by Poddington Bear. You can find me on Instagram at Anne Helen Peterson, Melody at Melodious47, and the show at Culture Study Pod.